to the August Parish Council meeting.
Yeah, we have apologies from Helen and Bethany, and Anne will try and make it. She's at the show today and is hoping to get back.
Right. Before we start, we've had a request to record this session, this meeting, which is going to happen. You all got the email about being open to recording and either video or voice. So that's happening.
There's a table with socket if anybody needs it on the side. That's the nearest socket and to a table. So.
Right. Minutes of
the recording thing. What I suggest is that the Parish Council amends its standing orders to include this new ability to record, and with your permission I'll add something in at the next meeting for signing off. And then I'll record on every agenda in the future the fact that people are able to. And then
okay. Is it worth popping that in the Grapevine just so as the public are aware?
Yeah.
You can do that at the leisure.
Do they have to announce the hour recording?
Just to inform.
Well, it was requested today.
So somebody's recording.
Yeah.
And kind of the public session, just briefly, very quickly mention that the new vicar is about to be put in place on September the 1st, and there's an institution service on the 1st of November at 7:30 to which Peter's been invited. Peter can't go, so I'll pass that down to Helen, and if Helen can't, I'll send it out to everybody. I would imagine everybody can attend the church, and it's at 7:30 on the 1st of September. Oh, his name is Stephen Cope.
That is the 1st of September.
1st of September, yeah. Yeah. Right, Pete, sorry.
Right, moving on. Minutes of the Parish Council meeting dated the 23rd of the 7th, 2014, and the Heritage Committee meeting 22nd of the 7th, 2014, and the Burial Committee meeting on the 4th of the 8th, 2014. Anyone, any comments? Can they be signed off? They're all.
What's the Heritage Committee meeting on the 22nd? No, 2 pages for that one. What's the Burial Committee meeting? Thank you very much.
Declaration of interest. Anyone, any declaration of interest, pecuniary or non-pecuniary, about any item on this agenda? No. Ron?
I've got a couple of, on the planning, 2 applications for my cousin. It's a non-pecuniary interest. Okay?
Okay. Matters arising. Parish Council vacancy, plus Grapevine notice of this.
Yeah, I've sent you all information on the notice for the vacancy, and the end date is, as it was said in the information I sent you. So if by the 8th of September nobody calls an election, then you'll be able to co-opt at the September meeting.
Does anybody else? Yeah? Yeah? No idea. No one approached me.
No, I shall find out from Beverley. They'll email me on the 8th or the 9th or whatever of September to tell me yes or no.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Parish Council website.
There was, sorry,
Can we just go back to
issues
chapter?
with the Grapevine notice,
Oh, sorry.
and Ian had asked for a child protection officer
Yeah.
to attend parish council meetings. So
Thank you, Dan.
Can I just speak on that, please? It's me.
Yes.
I have written something down. It's more of a statement to the council, but also the proposal that we do this and we do it as quick as we possibly can. In light of recent events with Mr. Worrall, it is vital that we as a council now do something to ensure the protection of the children of this village to the best of our abilities, both within our community and online. Like it or not, Mr. Worrall carried out these crimes while he was the chair of this parish council, and it is up to this parish council to do whatever we can to ensure that this can't happen again. I personally know one of Mr. Worrall's victims, and I've seen the devastation it's caused to him and to his loved ones. We must make sure that our child protection policies and our online activities are as robust as possible. I move that we ask a child protection officer, or the Homicide Police Commissioner is currently running a scheme that might be of interest to the council, to advise us and to work with us to improve our child protection policies so we can protect the children from paedophiles and at all costs ensure that this and future councils are able to do the same. So there's the proposal. We must do this as quick as we can.
Don't you feel that the law is here to do that?
The law is here to do that, but we have an obligation as parish councillors to try and protect the children the best we can.
Right. And how do you think we could have stopped?
I am not criticising anybody in the council. I'm saying it happened while he was chair of this parish council. I'm not saying that we knew or had any idea he was doing that. What I'm saying is, in the future, we must try and do everything we possibly can to ensure that the children of this village are safe.
Well, that's no problem with that, but I've just got this little feeling that the horse is gone, we're shutting the door now.
3 months ago, I did fetch this up. We could have
Well, it
taken
was
it over
already
in
known
confidence.
about him then.
Yes, but we could
It's
still
already
take
been
it over in
checked.
confidence. Up until the other day, we still received emails from this parish council.
He was still a parish councillor.
Exactly. You must do something. We can't just gloss over it and go over it and it happens
It's
again.
never been glossed over.
At the time, Mr. Chairman, we did ask for legal advice. The clerk
Yeah.
asked for legal advice, and we got legal advice, and we did what we could.
That's correct. I would just like somebody to attend to at least advise us and tell us about the devastation that can be caused and see if there's anything we can possibly do to improve the situation.
You know?
I think that would be fine in a public meeting. Call a public meeting for anybody who wants to attend from the village. But as parish councillors, we're not trained as child protection officers.
I'm not saying we have to be trained. What I'm saying is that we have an online presence on Facebook. We are dealing with children when we go out into the community, etc. We need to make sure that we are beyond reproach on this, because this looks bad in the eyes of the parish, in the eyes of the parish residents. Yes. I have several approaches on many occasions.
I spend 4 mornings a week in the village, in 4 coffee shops. I'm not going to complain.
Neither have I.
I've met dozens and dozens of people and not one complained about the council at all.
So, would you like to be all CRB checks and things like that?
We are already CRB checks. Some of us have gone beyond CRB checks
What,
due to
the
the
whole
nature of our
council?
partners' work.
The whole council, is that the sort of next stage that you would like to
CRB
reach?
checks would still not throw up. Take lights on this one.
I can't honestly see if anyone comes and gives us any talk, it would necessarily throw it. No, don't get me wrong, I don't disagree with the bringing someone in to talk, but it's not just the council, it's got to be the village.
Yes. We could make that a public thing, that's fine.
Mr. Chairman, I think that's a good idea. That Ian said if we got it so that anyone could attend, it could be in the public session at the beginning of the meeting. I think that the only thing I feel is that we need to. We've not been able to say anything at all because we were bound by the terms of what you can do, and that was quite right. I think some people in the village didn't understand that and thought that we had neglected to pay attention to this, which is not true because we couldn't do anything about it. So I think it maybe would be just a way to air the subject, and we can do it. I mean, for example, we can do it in a very generalised way, so that we take out there's a little bit of we take out the heat of the situation, and we can show everybody, and there's an opportunity for everybody to listen, because it isn't just the ex-chairman. There are other cases in this village as well, and this is an important matter. So I think it would be a good idea to do it like it is as a public thing, and not make it too to make it mild enough and generalised enough to be acceptable for all to listen to.
Okay. Is everyone in favour then of calling a public meeting?
Yeah, I would say a full evening rather than pre-Parish Council. I think it'd take too much time. So.
No, it's separate.
Yeah.
Like your ground prevention.
And then it gives us time to bring it to the Grapevine on Facebook so as everyone can see whether that meeting is available to them.
If we did that, Mr. Chairman, we should get the feeling of what the village thought.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I've been, like you, around the village ever since it happened. Hardly anyone's ever mentioned it to me.
No.
But could I just say something as well? Can I just say I'm not absolutely 100% sure the social networking site worked for the Parish Council, really. Because I think Facebook tends to be a bit of a...
The main problem is, I mean, there's even councillors around here that have stated things on Facebook that could be misconstrued. We are under a policy for being online as parish councillors to conduct ourselves correctly and not put down things that could be misinterpreted by the public.
May I speak? Thank you. Because I just don't think it's probably a good idea to have Facebook used for, well, parish councillors, whether it's to advertise parish council events or for people to air their grievances against parish councillors, because I just don't think it's necessary, and I think we should come off it personally. Facebook.
I agree.
I do really.
Totally.
I think it's like
It's causing too many problems.
misunderstandings.
Yeah.
And I think I know what Ian's talking about, the dodgy incident.
The dodgy incident which could have directly affected somebody's business,
Well,
and
not
probably
obviously
still
it
will,
could
I
have.
don't know.
But was that done maliciously, do you think?
I don't think it was done maliciously, believe me.
It was just a comment.
But we have to think before we put it down. It's there in the online policies
Well,
that we have to follow, but we have to think first before we put something down. And if that isn't happening, then we need to all read that again.
But that's why I'm saying possibly better just delete the account altogether.
That's the Facebook account.
But that also goes for our own personal things as well. We have to think about what we're putting and where we're putting it.
Yeah, but you have a privacy setting for things like that, don't you?
You do, but some people might still be privy to that who aren't subject to those privacy settings.
But that's my thought on Facebook anyway.
Right. Can we go back to this open meeting then?
Yes.
We're all in agreement that we should hold an open meeting, not a council meeting, but an open meeting where the council attends. Could you look at some dates after the next publication of Grapevine then, please? So this is going to be October Grapevine?
Yeah, Grapevine goes out on the delivery is the second Sunday, which is the 12th. Is that right? Yeah, it is October, isn't it? Yeah, the 12th of October it goes out. So if I look, the Parish Council meeting's on the 15th, which is the following Wednesday. So if I look towards the end of that month, is there a particular night that?
And we can do everyone's free, I suppose, from our own work plans.
No. But we all remember the crowd convention that was not very well attended.
That was a Friday night.
Yeah, that was a
We
Friday.
do it during the weeknight at 7:30. People are used to that in terms of attending parish council meetings, and
Okay.
I think the village hall meetings at 7:30, isn't it? Yeah, so it's a standard.
So we'll go for a midweek 7:30.
Yeah, Wednesday.
You've put out a couple of dates for people's diaries, chat diaries.
So that's the end of October.
And I'll find some contacts and I'll pass those on to the current Saturday. He's got some assessments.
Was Louise putting it as a motion, the way you said it, I wondered about deleting the account? Or not?
Well, I just...
No, sorry, I just didn't know whether you meant...
Well,
unless you want to bring, unless we put it on the agenda for the next
I
meeting.
think that might be a good thing. Gives everyone a chance to think about it.
Helen, mentioned something to me about it, and Helen's not here tonight, so if you don't mind.
So we've got a lot to think about that and what we're doing with this one.
Thank you.
This brings us to the council website.
We had this that I sent to you information from sorry, I can't remember his name. Charles Edward? Richmond, his last name, anyway. About the website, and I sent all that on to you. As I think I explained to Mr. Richmond, the Parish Council doesn't currently own the website, and it can't close anything down because it doesn't have one. I've since had two contacts, one from another chap, and again I'm sorry, I was hoping Helen would be here because she knows this person, who offered a friend of his, but I asked him to contact me by email and he hasn't. And Bethany, as I think I sent out to you, all said that her and her husband would happily set up a Parish Council website. It would be set up, the existing website, in ownership terms and so on, is nothing to do with the Parish Council. So if you want me to progress that in some shape or form, let me know and I will...
Yeah.
Could you say, you mentioned, Steve, didn't you, about the Yorkshire Council?
Yeah, that would be the website I would suggest.
Yeah, and has anybody seen those? I know that there are other parish councils that use them, and I've had a look at one or two, and I thought they were quite good. Looked very straightforward, quite stylish, and free. Now, we don't have to go for it because it's free, but I thought they were pretty good, and they were obviously done under the wing of East Yorkshire Council, so that there was plenty of backup there.
The only cost is to buy the domain name, which was the domain name needs to be purchased, and it's not a lot. It's,
all right.
I can't remember, but it was like £10 a year, if that. And there's a chap at the East Riding is there to mentor the person that's doing the website. So that's a support.
If can you go straight to the website without going through East Yorkshire?
Oh yes, yeah.
I don't know much about
the website. I don't know if you did look, but the Bubwith website, there's a vessel, various ones. The fascinating one is the one at the coast, where the birds are. Kempton, up that way. If you look at that one, and they're all pretty much the same. They're all very easy. They're easy to navigate. I hold my hand up. I've tried to run a website and I can't do it. I've got this mental block.
Well, Steve, I just said that I thought it would be a good idea if, in the meantime, if everybody has a look on some of these websites, could you find some that we could, some names so that we could actually look on them, the ones that are on that East Riding template or whatever, and then we'll all have a look at them and see what we think.
Yeah.
Because the ones I saw, I thought were good. I thought excellent.
And do you want me to put Bethany on standby to host it with her husband if she's happy to, or do you want to leave that till next time? Or?
I'll be happy to.
Bethany's good at stuff like that.
Everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. Basically what would happen then is that I would send Bethany agendas and minutes as they come up, plus your register of interest, plus anything else that is relevant to the Parish Council, and there'll be folders on there that they can click pages you can click onto and see. So it works really easily. Okay.
Wind turbine community funds.
No change from last time. I leave that on there so we don't lose it. Basically, Helen has confirmed that all of the single farm turbines are as per her description last time. So there's nothing more to report on that.
Cemetery report.
Oh, sorry, on that, this business of Moor End, I'm sorry about this isn't happening. Victoria is talking to the office, a guy called Paul Worrall, and he's coming out to have a meeting with myself and Peter and anybody else that wants to come about Moor End, the 2 access roads, which we're hoping to have adopted, because Gilbert Island got a similar issue and is having a day and is going to visit both parishes. Don't know when yet, but that will happen hopefully fairly soon.
Cemetery report.
Yeah, again, this business of moving Tom Cooper has dragged on and on. I've been waiting. I can't move without a letter of permission from a relative of Tom Cooper. And Chris was chasing up Gerald Walton on Back Lane. And apparently Gerald's wife's still here or something, I don't know. And so Chris didn't push him for it. I've got a letter here that I wrote back in March, just wanting a signature. I don't know whether to write to Gerald or whether anybody knows him.
See, I know everyone, and he spoke to me about this.
Did he?
Yes, he did, and he was a little bit confused about it. And when the issue blew up with Chris, that I think that put him off a bit. So it would be a good idea if somebody had a quiet word with him, just to put him in the picture. So whether it would be you, or I don't know whether I know enough about it, but one of us should have a quiet word with him, because he is the man, he will do it.
Yeah.
But he just needs to be talked to.
If somebody can get me his telephone number, I'll happily ring him up, but I'm not ready from Adam, obviously.
Shall I tell him you'll have a word?
Yeah, please do, and let me have his number and I'll speak to him.
Yeah.
Thank you. Once this happens, then it kind of triggers everything to take place. So that's that. Okay, thank you. The minutes
The
are.
minutes. Well, we've passed the minutes. Very good.
Yeah, but if there are any issues from it, basically it was to try and sort out this notice board, but Mrs. Brocklesby wasn't available. And so when she's back from holiday, we're going to arrange to meet with her. I don't think there was anything else. Oh, the other thing was, after the meeting, Peter Wiles and Ralph from the church and I had a look at the graveyard. Ralph was delighted with the work that Peter's doing. Everybody apparently in the church is delighted. And so I said to Ralph that as the first year was working so well, I'm going to send the church an invoice now, because they committed to putting £500 towards the cost of grass cutting in the graveyard for this year. And then the Parish Council back in October 2013 said that if the Parish Council adoption of the work in the graveyard worked, then they would carry on in the future at nil cost to the church. That was what the Parish Council then. I don't know whether the Parish Council now need to confirm that. It doesn't need to be done now. I can put that on a future agenda if you so wish. But you're happy for me to ask the church for some money?
Oh, of course.
Right. Okay.
It'll play politics.
Yeah,
Handyman issue.
that's done.
Right. We met with Alan Williamson. We went down and had a look at his accommodation again at Waterside. It's full of somebody else's furniture at the moment, but he says he can get it moved pretty swiftly. It's quite a big building. You could probably fit 5 or 6 council garages in. It needs the power reconnecting. There is water there, and it's quite a nice thing behind a large, pretty robust fence. And I think there's CCTV cameras on site as well. We talked about the cost, and he's willing to do it basically at the cost of 2 council garages, and we pay for the electricity.
We might just have one sticky problem with access to the property itself, because the driveway doesn't actually belong to Mr Williamson. It's actually owned by somebody else. I need to have a best conversation with the person who told
The
me
road
that.
belongs to somebody else.
Yeah.
The actual access road.
Yeah, so it might be that we need to just have a word with them and say, do you mind if we come up there to access that? But
Yeah.
I can do that, that's not a problem. It's
Right. We do need to crack on with this. If we're going to move, we need to move reasonably quickly. There's a lot of stuff now.
Is there a meter on the?
Pardon?
Is there a meter on the?
No, but we asked about having a meter put on. We met with Brian yesterday, with Brian and Barry.
Brian.
And he said it would,
That's
and he said it would cost
about £60 fitted.
to have a meter fitted.
And is that reconnecting it as well?
Now I'm not sure about whether there is a cable to this thing. Alan just said it would need a meter fitting. As an alternative, I thought as part of what I want to do for next year's Delivery Blue was to buy a generator and a water pump, and I was wondering whether the generator could be used to power what little light we would need during the winter months. But £60, it's not a lot to have mains power put in.
We want to make sure, Mr Chairman, that we can obviously
I
get
can have a
access.
word with the Hostings and just make sure
Yeah.
that access is, they're happy with us for family, with the
Which access will you use then?
The one that goes down to Hulson's farm.
That's right.
Down past the sewage works
That's right.
and then back up the railway line?
Yeah.
Right.
Mr Chairman, can I just ask a question? Someone asked me to ask this question. What happened to the tractor shed on the playing field?
What happened to it?
Because somebody said they used to have a tractor, they were tractor shed, you remember?
No.
The tractor's not in it anymore, is it?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's and it's used very different.
Oh right, so it's not available.
Grass cutters and Bill Person, everything we're expecting now.
Alright, so it's busy, it's been
I
used with it.
don't know whether you were at the meeting, 2 meetings ago, or last one. There was an advert in post office that somebody had a workshop for it. Turned out it's part of the old Bushroot farm. But she was looking for 130 or 40 quid a month. I think I did them down. It was 3 or 4 times more than our possible current output.
If we put a meter in and all that, I presume we get an annual agreement.
Yeah. And he couldn't spend a lot of time. His partner was going to the hospital that night to have babies. But yes, I can speak to him again. But just need to put it to everyone that can't find anything better at the moment. The alternative is 2 council garages for the same price without the electricity that people will need. For maintenance work during the winter months. I think what's on offer to us is very good. It's safe, secure, certainly as secure as council garages could be, and there is a possible added bonus that we might have the use of quite a large polytunnel in Bloom. Where
Would it be not worth considering keeping the garage on as well? It's a long way to go down there if you can get stuff out of the garage at this end for the price of the garage.
you don't feel about that.
And anybody asked Peter?
Yeah, what's Peter's thoughts on it? Peter's lowered it.
Yes, they went down with it. Yeah. He's fine with it.
That site sounds a lot more secure than the council garage that we're meeting on.
Yeah.
It sounds a lot better.
It can certainly, yeah. There is there's a door to put on, but it's a normal sized door. The front door, the main door, is quite a robust thing. We just need to fit a better padlock.
There's no point having the garage. It's just another outlay for the council, isn't
£10 a fortnight, so £20 a month.
How much is Alan? Sorry,
He's going to do it for 10 a week.
10 a week.
£40 a month, which is the equivalent of the two garages.
Yeah.
For £120 a year or whatever for a garage at this end, it'd be worth asking Pacer if it's any use to him, because if he's having to go down there all the time, and he can keep stuff.
One at this end would be handy for maybe keeping salt and stuff
Salt,
in, wouldn't it?
Would you ask the plan?
Just obviously making sure that we have proper legal agreement with that.
Oh, yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Do you want me to approach the Wilsons and...
If you would ask,
it's just...
Yeah.
Obviously, it's now...
I never thought that. I didn't know it was a private road, that, because I didn't actually see a sign that said private.
No, but it is.
What,
He must have some agreement with them to...
He has an agreement with Alan, which I believe is for himself and his staff only at the moment.
Okay.
So...
but that was, I presume that was the access that he was going to use for his holiday camp.
Yeah.
Yes.
And what sort of terms of notice do you have to give on the garage in?
We didn't get that. I say it was pushed for time, and he had to go out.
It used to be 1 month, I think.
Really, if I can get it sorted, we should look to getting something in place.
Well, what's wrong with
By
saying?
next month.
What's wrong with sort of saying if I can see Ian's point for keeping consulting it, let's see, why don't we keep the garage on in Beacon View till say next year, till winter months are finished, see how it goes,
Okay.
or what they will cost us, and it keeps
Yeah.
both the options open, doesn't it?
Right, so before next meeting, then I'll work with Alan again, get tied down to a contract at a good period of time, of course, and we'll also then come back with what's proposed and possibly keep on the garage.
For the time,
suggested,
for the time being.
And I'll get back to you over the weekend. I'll get the sense with the access.
So, assuming Ian gets the okay from the access, is there a reason to stop you saying yes to it now? Rather than
Not really.
Should that be
If everyone's
formally
agreed.
agreed?
Yeah.
So if you get the access sorted out, and certainly I'm happy with it, Peter's happy.
I propose we take up the option.
Ian's proposed that we take it. Thank you. All in favour then, that we go ahead? Okay, against? Okay, no.
The old trailer, I haven't progressed that, and we'll look to see how we can get rid of that.
Right. It's a great man.
Yeah, if people have comments on the August edition, Emily's at the back. If
Got it up really
to
nicely,
receive
right?
plaudits and
Informative,
comments.
informative.
McDonald's looked to have got the Windsor. McDonald's looked to have got the Windsor.
The only comment now, that is the delivery.
Well, I'll have a
Right.
look what's on
That's a
there.
separate issue.
Yeah, I'll speak about the delivery. But the actual edition, yes,
Really
McDonald's
interesting,
is
yeah.
quite.
Yeah.
He didn't want the front page, and just the banner headline. That was his request. And of course, that is the McDonald's organisation in full flow. Well, it's not like the rest of our contributors. He's got a wide organisation behind him. But yes, right, the delivery issue. Right, the Sunday, we all know we had a couple of showers. And it wasn't just a case of the people getting wet. The actual copies were getting soggy. So they stopped. And then came out again on Monday, when one of the lads was knocked down, and I don't know how or where it happened, but there was an accident. So they picked him up, put him in the bus and took him to hospital. And from there I think it went absolutely rats. I know there was some mistrials here. I got an email saying there was 3 missed down in Chapel and up there. Then I spoke to someone in the coffee shop and she said, well, I don't think anybody down knows about that one. So So my wife and I delivered a snow draw. But I had mentioned to Steve that I actually got about 160 copies back. So I had a good idea then that there was something wrong on this.
It's about 100 too many, wasn't it?
Was there also issues with some appearing in people's bins as well?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That some had been...
three in a couple of hedges and one 5 or 6 in a bin.
There was 3 in a hedge on Home Close, 3 in a litter bin on Old Road, 5 in a brown bin on Old Road, and 3 copies in another brown bin on Back Lane. I'm still waiting. I copied you all, yes I did, on the email to the probation service, see if they can shed some light, but I've not heard back, and as Peter said, it got a bit obviously
Is
chaotic.
it the same supervisor with all this?
No.
No, that was...
Well, that seems to me that's the problem, isn't it?
Oh, that's
It is normally.
Yeah.
It's a guy called Andy
Yeah.
who's excellent. I meet him
That's right.
every other month, but he was on holiday. The guy I met on the Sunday was really good, Sam, and from then on it just got...
It will demonstrate though if some have been put in bins that maybe not being as closely supervised as being told.
Well, I don't think that the supervisor got glasses that will come and stop can actually deal with every one of them to supervise.
No.
Maybe too many bins.
I think again it was a case of he had too many people.
Actually, the guy, if I may, the guy on the Sunday, Sam, he had 8, and I pulled a face when he said that, and he said, don't worry, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have 4 out delivering, and I'll watch them, and 4 in the van, and then I'll swap them. And so he was well organised and well aware of potential problems. But I don't know what happened on the Monday, and then obviously it went pear-shaped, and then...
Well, I think it happened outside our shop. And I think from what I can gather, as the car was back and he walked into the car. So it was now and something like that.
Oh, okay.
Did allow that was on because obviously before I became a councillor.
But I think they tried to make more of it than it was.
Sounds bad. I thought you were going to say the way 10 seconds later.
So hopefully it was like a one-off problem this time.
We hope so.
We'll obviously, when we do the next one, I'll talk to Andy and explain the problems, and we can monitor it from there on. Okay.
Right. Potential match funding. Sponsorship of the football.
Yeah, this was something, if I may, that came out of the meeting with McDonald's, and it's all about bringing in outside money bringing external money to the parish, and McDonald's are sponsoring the under 8s, I think it is, soccer club, and he's got Mike from McDonald's has got a good relationship with Gemma, who helps run the team. And Gemma and he were talking about buying posts at £850. And in the meantime, as they were talking, they had to buy the posts, which were bought by Mike, is it, the guy who runs a soccer club? They had to have them at a certain time to meet the league's needs or something. So everything then becomes a retrospective. And Mike from McDonald's said that he might be able to find... He couldn't find the money from his original source because it was then retrospective. But he may be able to find it himself, and he said, could the Parish Council match fund it? And he would go half, and the Parish Council would go half. And I said I'd ask the question. This is going back a little while now.
Yeah.
Hopefully it still is valid.
And the cost was?
It was 850. I don't know whether that includes VAT or not. So let's assume that it doesn't, and it would cost 425, but he would match fund it, presuming that the offer's still on the table.
Can I just clarify something I haven't read into yet? When people apply for funds, do they have to provide us with anything, their accounting or the rules, etc., that they go by as an organisation before we give them any money?
Was that correct?
Yeah, what's happened in the past is did I not give you that when you started?
You maybe did actually sign up time.
Sorry,
It's just thinking out loud.
I'll send them on to you. Here's what happens is there are grant forms. I haven't got one with me, and it asks the body requesting a grant for certain information. Some of that is financial, some of it is, if necessary, like a constitution. this Parish Council then decided that they weren't going to grant aid anybody this year just finished, but the Parish Council by the clerk would work with the organisations to try and get money from outside. And that was quite successful in some areas. When that was exhausted and we couldn't go any further, the Parish Council then did grant aid, sums of money to a lot of organisations in the village.
Can I just say about the football posts? Is it football posts?
Yeah, it's goal posts, I think it was goals, they've called it goal posts. Yeah.
Why don't the football club pay it the other half?
Is this for just the under-8s?
Yes.
Oh, that's that.
Oh, yes, the tiny goals, the only standard.
So you are sort of singling out a...
Age range, aren't
Yeah.
they?
It's all under the umbrella of the football club. The football club runs every same.
But it would seem to me that the football club should be looking at this. One of the things we try to do with all these clubs is that they get funding from outside or grants from wherever they can, and then we assist them in that process. Steve assists them. And then if they can't, or if there needs a small amount to release a larger amount, we could look at that or whatever. But this does need to be looked at by the football club, I believe, because they haven't looked at it, have they? They're coming straight to us. Is that right?
No, it's come from the soccer club.
So have they tried to get funding for this?
In terms of, well, they can't get grants for this because it would be a retrospective, and people don't give grants for retrospective purchases. No one does.
But do they have any funds of their own?
I don't know.
Well, personally, I would be reluctant to let that go until they've actually tried to fund it themselves. Because I think they should do. We are not here to fund the football club.
No, Mr. Chairman, we're not here to fund it, but we're here to help them.
Yes.
And there's a lot of people giving their time
Yeah.
for the young people, and there's quite a few teams now, and the funding must be horrendous for them to get the money together.
I don't see a problem in donating so much or whatever, the full amount. I'd like to see them do it for themselves.
Well, that's really what we're saying, that McDonald's sort of will find half and we find half. And that,
Yeah, but that's the whole cost then, the football club will
Why don't they
paying
have
anything.
and they do a quarter, we do a quarter. You know what I mean? For them to show willing.
Yeah,
It's funding, bit fundraising.
I'd rather we donate 250 or something. Otherwise, if we pay for everything,
Makes it a bit
they're just
easier,
going to get the
doesn't
dearest
it?
of everything, knowing.
They've already got this.
Yeah, these
Yeah,
are in
yeah,
next.
aren't they?
Collections
Is that for the little ones?
The reason that well, Pete and myself brought this at the table because we were in the meeting was because there was an opportunity for, as I said before, external funds to come in, and we thought that was worth mentioning. Didn't we?
Yes. Any other comments on this?
Well, I think as Louise said, the football club could put something in. I mean, I think that we should help our clubs for sure. That's absolutely without doubt. But the club should also be taking a major part of it. Ideally, they would go to raise all the funds. It is important that these clubs do look to get external funding because it is available. It's available for them to get, and only they can make the effort.
It's not for this, excuse me. That's the point.
Yeah.
What's the point? With respect,
It
sorry.
can't be
no.
done for this because they've already been purchased.
Yeah.
Yes, I can see that, but
We need to clear this up and then make it clear to the football club in future. If you know this is coming up, then you need to apply. Have they become accredited?
Not to my knowledge.
Or possibly just say you'll give them a couple of hundred and let them find the rest.
And as Peter said, make it plain then that we would like them to front it themselves in future.
Yeah.
I think that it's important that point continues because Steve knows we made a lot of effort before in trying to get this, the clubs themselves looking for funding.
Well, with it being late and they've already done it,
Yeah.
I think on this occasion I would suggest, well, I propose 300. We don't know.
No, so
300.
Three.
So Ian's proposed 300. Ian seconded. You know, in agreement? Everyone in agreement? Or all in agreement?
I think only I think what proviso wants putting on there is that it's difficult to give money when they've already bought something. They must understand that if they apply to us before they buy something, otherwise we would have to be careful that this doesn't. Oh, we bought this and we can't really afford it. Whether the Parish Council will give it.
I agree, but the football club didn't come to us at the precincts this year before. And we've given funds to other groups.
Well, I think we should give them the reminder that we said before. Steve knows about the remind them to try and keep up with the fundraising from external sources.
Yeah. So, are we all agreed then that we give the football club £300 for these goalposts? Yeah. Yes. Anyone against? No. So. Down to our monthly problem. The grass cutting within the lounge.
I sent you the reply from Paul Trish.
Yes, you did. Everyone got it?
Yeah, copied everybody on that.
Good, wasn't it? I think we missed a trick over there. All of that. Top marriages in Blackies that night. We should have done them. I don't think, if you've all read that email from him, then there isn't a lot to say. He's flatly refused to give us any information. Where do we go?
When is the next time they're due to cut, Mr. Chair?
I have a feeling, looking at the grass, it could be this week.
I'm in Budworth today. I don't know where we fit Budworth and Home all together, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't count the weeks, but I'm just looking at the grass. It hasn't grown for quite a while, and we've had this drop of water, and it's off again, and I just think it could be this week or next.
Could we approach Councillor Aiken to put a little pressure on him to give us the information we're requesting? Or
I suppose we could.
because otherwise
It
it
would be very good.
to just basically ignore it. But if it comes from somebody at the time, maybe they might start to prick up their ears.
Could we do that?
I think I did copy Victoria on all the correspondence, and if not, I will do so. The thing that, if I may, looking at it from sort of writing it all and everything, the one thing we haven't had is a reply from anybody else. And there were Councillor Matthews was copied on the information the Parish Council sent and the reply you received. He is Victoria Aiken, but he's the portfolio holder for grass cutting and among other things. And Nigel Leighton and Mike Featherby are higher than Paul Tripp. And Mike Featherby is the guy we met in the blacksmiths, the one that said, "You're being really good as a parish council."
Yeah.
And he's not got involved in this, and neither has a ward councillor, and that slightly concerns me that they're not. So you could write to them saying, "Could we have your comments on this or something?"
We'll do that, please.
Yeah, I mean that.
Is everyone okay with that situation?
Yeah.
Can they keep pushing? Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, is it true then? Well, I mean, am I right in thinking that until we get a reply with some information from them, we can't even progress this discussion, can we? Really? Am I right in thinking that?
Well, we can't. No.
Yeah. So we need to know that roughly what they're saying is the money's on the table, sort of thing, don't we?
I don't think he's ever going to tell us that. But when we had this discussion with the blacksmiths here 15 months ago, their bottom line seemed to be they would have to start tracking jobs. But we left the meeting with the impression that they were more worried about their jobs than possibly the actual people that actually come on and cut grass. We did say to them, if you lose a job in Worrall or wherever, we gain one in almost Polymore, which is better for our village than what we were putting up with them grass cutting exercise. And for a short time it was up. And now we're back to square one again, with all the same excuses. And where we go from here, apart from getting in touch with portfolio holder and whoever else, Victoria, if we can ask Victoria to look into it, then
And see if they can progress the thing. If they can't, then we'll have to make a decision then next time, won't we?
Has there been actually a breach of the request legally or not? Because they haven't given us all the information that we requested.
Oh, they have in their own terms. They've given us the information. It's not.
But it isn't the entire picture that we've asked for.
It's not what we want, but it covers all of the, the freedom of information type thing.
So you can ask for costings and they give you some...
Oh, they gave us an answer, but it wasn't an answer that we could work with.
No.
I haven't even got it here because it was not...
Is it worth going back to our legal section in the council and saying, look, where do we stand with this Freedom of Information Act that we've asked for? We haven't received everything that we need.
Well,
where do we stand?
I can ask, but I'm confident that they did give us the answer.
You can let a live feed onto them.
But I will check it, but it is valid.
Can we work out how much time is spent in the village?
It would be quite easy if we had a couple of people that could stand on the watch and go it. But it's actually knowing what day they're going to arrive.
And that might be more
But
valid.
if they don't want to give you the right to adopt it, in many ways it doesn't matter how much they're spending because they're not going to give you that money to take it over. If you, that means
No, if they're spending the same time on disposing more as they are in, say, a smaller village, then we've got more valid points to...
Yeah, but what we were originally saying was that if they're not doing a good enough job, we would do it, but they would have to pay us the money that we pay them. But if they're not willing to do that, then we can't take it on as an individual. If we would set a put precept up. That's
Does it not come up for tender then? Do they just do it then?
It's their job to look after their ladies and how it to go. And how it, it's double taxation again.
You'd also have to factor into our equipment booked in the job. They've got some...
Oh, yes, no. What we've got at the moment certainly couldn't. So we certainly wouldn't want to take it on.
So then it'd be more investment, wouldn't it?
I think you need to get them to at the last try getting information from them and then go from there, I think. Give it another try.
If you could have send notice to those 3 or 4 people.
Yeah, thank you.
And we'll move on to Cherry Drive, the grassed area known as Backfield. I'm not going to pass this round, but I sat on the computer on Parish Online and looked at what Anne and I and Matt and Bethany have talked about the day we spent on Backfield. And I see it basically being, if we're going to make something of it, split into 3 separate areas. A play area for younger children, an area where people can just meet, and perhaps a quiet area where older folks can sit and watch the daisies grow. We've yet to find out who owns it.
I have written to Framecourt Homes and I've not heard that.
Okay, so that's up in the air at the moment. So we are still pushing, and when we get something definite and I can draw straight lines on mapping, I will sort of show everyone what I would propose on what we talked about. And if anyone else has any ideas, I haven't seen it.
Did we look at input from the 2 ladies that talked to us last time on that?
Well, we certainly can,
put in that.
but what we must look at is if we're going to get everyone on our side. I went at the meeting, I went to council then, but I'm told that there were a lot of people starting to go, so that were really against it. And the meeting was quite brutal. And so, it's not just it's got to be a little bit of for everyone. Public rights of way.
Yeah, this, really, I don't have a great deal to say on that. It was discussed at the Heritage meeting, that will come up later, about maybe the Heritage Committee looking at public rights of way as part of their remit. Gordon, I know, is getting involved in different things. And then there was also the issue that Anne brought up, this pink line, in inverted commas, on the map. That Anne asked if I could contact the drainage board, which I did, and basically you've had to reply from the drainage board, and they don't think they can get involved.
If you want, Steve, I can actually say something about this. I can say it later, but we don't do it in both rooms. But I can tell you that me and Alec had a meeting with Gordon Shields, who is the chairman of the Riverfront Market Winkenham Riverfront feasibility study. And at the Heritage meeting, we said yes, we would try and work with Gordon Shields' initiative. I sit on that committee because they want to rectify the problems in the footpaths down at the Land of Nod, the issues of the common land which have been abused, the footpaths themselves have been abused and completely mixed up down there, and obstruction from some of the landowners. So Alec has researched this, found out some historical facts. Gordon Shields has a wealth of knowledge. Gordon's from Newport. He's a man of some experience in such issues. We asked Gordon if we could work with him on this issue of the sorting out the footpaths on the canal, rather, on the Macquarie Canal. And so we had a meeting, a very good meeting, very positive. We feel there's a lot that can be done down there, a lot of areas that are grey which we could sort out. And to cut it all short, Gordon agreed, first of all, to talk to Andrew Morris, who's the chair of the OOS Drainage Board. And one of the reasons why we wanted to do it that way is that Andrew Morris cannot be frank in a letter to this Parish Council because he could easily be criticised, it could be used against him. So an informal conversation is the best way to see what is possible, what is feasible down there. So Gordon's going to talk to Andrew Morris. After that conversation, he's going to talk to the landowners down there. And it was felt that we do not want to discuss the landowners' issues in this room in a public event without him being involved, so it needs to be a discussion with him to see how he stands on this, because an amicable solution to the problem is the best all round, there's no doubt about that. There's been changes in the law on how footpaths are approached and how lost ways can be reopened. And this deregulation bill that's been through Parliament has opened a new path for us as well. So after Gordon's had these discussions with Andrew Morris, and then discussions with Mark Laverick, he's going to talk to the Heritage people again. That will be me, Callie, and anybody on the Heritage Committee who wants to attend. And I will let you know when that will be. An informal discussion, sitting around somebody's kitchen table. That's the way we're going to do it. And we're going to see how we can go forward. And at the moment, Gordon would prefer if we do it that way, and I would prefer to do it that way as well, rather than the Parish Council doing it there and we're doing it there. Let's try for one concerted effort. And I have a lot of faith in Gordon Shields. He's pulled off quite a lot of good projects in the past. He has no history with the landowners down at Land of Nod, whereas I think most of us have a little bit of history with them down there. So I think this is a good way to progress it, and if we keep a little bit, keep the impetus up, I think we can make some progress. If we can't make any progress, at least we will know where we are, and then we can actually take it to the East Yorkshire Council using the deregulation bill as a basis to force their hand. So we think we've started a series of steps which will lead somewhere. So is that okay?
Yep. Sounds very good.
So I'll keep you all posted on that, and Peter will probably sit with us on some of these things. What do you think?
I should certainly try.
Yeah.
Right, we'll move on to the village green seat. You've all seen it.
It looks down.
It's, yes, Peter's done a very good job again sticking it in there. It's in about 6-7 inches of concrete, bolted down, but the labouring nobody will run away with it. It's a good 3-man lift. That's just a struggle to lift it. So that one's done, and the other one is been residing up the church car park now for a couple of weeks, I think. Best part of 2 weeks. So that's it. You may freely use the chair, the seat, whenever you get down there feeling tired.
Very good.
We'll move on to crime prevention, the door locks.
Yeah, I haven't had any response from the article in the Grapevine, but I did meet with the Crime and Police Commissioner last Thursday, Matthew Grove. He came to Budworth, and I was talking to him about various things and mentioned the thought of doing door locks for residents. And there is a crime prevention fund that is set up of £1.5 million, and it may be that that fits into that criteria, and I need to check that out yet. I haven't had a chance to follow that up.
Just an aside to that, I was in the coffee shop this morning, and I actually had 2 people say that they would be interested if we did start this door thing. Right. Christmas plans.
There was a meeting held the 11th of August, and I sent you all notes with your agendas. Basically, people said last year was really good, received well by all. 1 or 2 little tweaks needed, and discussions then went around the signs, the choir, who's providing food and what food. Need to check with Ann Dowson that she's sorting out Father Christmas and the craft stalls, and that her and or Lincoln will be arranging the fair at Blacksmiths. And then the Christmas tree and small Christmas tree, we said we would discuss.
Yes.
Tonight.
And between then and now, I've spoken to Mrs. Christmas, and Mrs. Christmas will there now. We, in our meeting this morning with Brian Dennis, which one am I talking about? Anyway, the younger of the Dennises. He did some work on one of his buildings, and he took down the centre flag mount, or Christmas tree mount. He suggested that there are too many, and we were stood on the green looking down the village, and it does look that way. I might suggest, having had this put to me this morning, that we take, like on my calls, there's 4. There's probably only need for 2 on any of the shops down there, and then we could look to where we put the rest to spread them a little bit around the village.
Yeah, because you see, top end top of this end tends to get neglected a bit, doesn't it? And then, put them in there.
Well,
Other than school.
we could knock on 1 or 2 doors.
Yeah.
We could get all this very
See, Southgate's probably they may have one, wouldn't they? The garage might.
Yeah. But it was also pointed out as a cost-saving thing that we wouldn't need as many Christmas trees. It might. I don't think it'd solve the lighting problem, but it's something I could look at over the next month or 2. Knock on a few doors and say, would you like a Christmas tree or a flagpole and maybe front wall?
Same again, I think that you have to be very careful because you don't ask them all or it's they don't get asked. I personally would just leave to commercial property.
You should. Well, they aren't all on commercial properties now, are they?
Yeah, which one isn't it?
Well, job, if you want a job.
No, they'll come down, won't they?
Well, that used to be. We haven't taken the brackets down yet, but I didn't mention
Well,
the
that-
data.
But really, otherwise they're all on commercial properties, aren't they?
The one
Unless, no, I'll tell you what, the one, Terry has one, Terry has one.
That's
But I suppose you could say, well, he's been shot on.
Yeah.
But he has one, and that'd be the only one, won't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
Just weren't allowed one above where the
Right.
estate agencies weren't allowed one there. The gentleman who owned the building
Oh,
objected strongly to
what's
that.
that farm? Oh, because I don't know. You know where Southgate's garage is, then there's the field, isn't there?
Yeah.
And then that farm, the big house farm opposite there, they've got like a barn wall which says Little Petals in it.
Yeah.
Well, that would be
One that as well, older. That you could.
Good ask.
And Southgate's, I think, probably could have one. And you see, I don't see why school couldn't.
I don't think you'd get the effect if there's one here and
No,
one
I
there.
know, but I just think that
The
you've
centre
got
of the
all in
village,
Yeah, but the centre of the
great
village
hospital.
is where the school is.
Um,
Allegedly, that's what I read somewhere.
What?
That the centre of the village is based on the school, isn't it?
And that was 100% building
All
project.
right.
So we just have a comment from the gallery.
Said about keeping the cost down of the trees and the brackets and everything. We spent a lot of money on buying flagpoles and flags. What about every other one being a flag and every other one being a tree? Thereby using all the brackets, you're still looking pretty full, but you're halving your cost with your Christmas trees.
Well, we only
They
have
are a
to
bit
buy.
thick on the ground when the trees are out.
Yeah.
It looks very nice, but maybe a bit over the top with them, but they're intermittent with a flag.
But we only buy flags for occasions.
Are you not allowed a Christmas flag?
You want me to look? See
Or
if
like a big
there's
pair of bloomers when we've got a flag smile on or something?
Louise.
So sometimes, Mr. Chairman, are those flags coming down then?
We're taking them around tomorrow, Ennis.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We actually, we found out that if one's actually outside your bedroom window, you don't get much sleep in a strong wind. You're all right, it's your bathroom.
It links to the bedroom, I get anyway.
So, yeah, they're coming down tomorrow, and unless there's a royal birthday or something, we won't be going back up, the Union Park won't be going back up. Yes, we need to get one or two down, and we'll leave them up, but look to alternate them for Christmas trees and flags in the future.
We know the ones above McCall's, they were always plugged into the flat above, which you've no access now, so as Barry sorted some plugs out for that.
We were talking to him, there is a little bit of a hiccup. I need to go and speak to someone at the post office who didn't want the cable running along the scout.
Oh.
It would be no cost to him. We're
Yeah.
going to, sort of pay for the electricity. But yeah, I need to go and speak to him. We only found that out this morning.
So I say leave the flags up.
No, so the flags are definitely coming down, but we'll leave the sockets up, and then at Christmas perhaps just alternate trees rather than every one tree. But we'll move on then to the local grant fund.
Yes, I mentioned at the last meeting that there is a potential of some £3,000 that we could apply for, and we just basically need to look at ideas for them. In terms of last year, we had 2 grants from the local grant fund, one of which has been reclaimed, and that was for the litter bins and doggy bag dispensers. We've got that money back. We obviously paid the VAT and don't get the VAT back until the year end. And we've also got a grant committed to us for 1,350 for half of the village hall chairs. And the chairs, hopefully, depending on your comments, will be ordered tomorrow, and then I'll reclaim that money. So that's basically £2,860 of external money that we will have had from the fund last year,
Yeah.
which was close to the £3,000 that we could have applied for. And we need maybe to look at getting the same money spent this year, because if money's there, we should get it, shouldn't we, rather than leave it to somebody else.
tonight. So
We just need ideas and I can
I'm
make
going to give
them.
it some thought.
The
The
other
next meeting?
chairs.
That's taken care of, I hope. So cool. If there are any ideas, let me know. Don't be shy, and I can investigate with Beverly to see whether it fits the remit of this year. But the fund is open, and it grieves me to think we ought to
Yes,
make some
we
money.
should. We certainly should. So if anyone has any reasonable ideas, then please let the clerk know. Other grant applications.
Yeah, just
I'm not saying Tom.
Just to tell you that I've made 2 grant applications to Wren, one of which is for the second half of the Village Hall chairs. That was £2,600 and some pounds, and the other was for the War Memorial, with the thought of siting that at the top of Meadowfields as you've discussed, and that was for 8,520. We won't know until November. If they do grant aid to the Parish Council on both of those, the Parish Council will need to put in 11% of that. So I'll obviously bring it back to the table at that point and see whether the Parish Council wish to do that. I've also looked at another grant that the East Riding have got out for High Street regeneration, and it's to bring back into play empty shops and things like that. But unfortunately, they're targeting that on the larger towns, and Market Wheaton, Pocklington, Howden, etc. Are in the scheme, but Homeless Baltimore won't be. So that was that.
Village Hall Play Corner and Car Park, Parish Council involvement.
That was a meeting that you and I attended with Pat Ladwright and Bethany and Carol Keane. And basically, it was a positive meeting. Do you want to?
It was. It's been suggested that working closer with the committee, the Village Hall committee, that we know we fund most of what goes on in the play corner, and we were asked whether the council would consider looking at it full time, basically, and also the car park. I've actually had a chat with a parishioner who has reservations about us doing this. The thought was that the play corner is at a stage where it might need a lot of money spending on it. We were told on the day that there was a specific bolt missing off one of the swings, but it's not just an ordinary bolt, it's got to be a specific tensile steel, and instead of being threatened to Margaret, it's probably 30 quid. That sort of thing. Things would become expensive if it's and pieces started wearing out.
Where would we stand with public liability insurance as well? If any child got damaged or whatever coming off a said swing with dodgy bolt.
The Parish Council currently has public liability insurance, and if the Parish Council adopted the play corner, it would set in motion a series of examinations of the play corner to make sure everything's okay. And if something wasn't okay, then that piece of equipment would obviously be shut down. And that's as far as you go. If an accident happens, then the public liability is there.
Add to our insurance costs.
Oh yeah, well, I don't know. Possibly.
That was something we'd have to factor in with the decision.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was the reason why they want us to take it on?
Basically, because the village hall is run by volunteers, and for that fact, there's no actual group runs the King's Corners, is there? So it's a village asset. It's for the village. It's not just for the village hall.
It's probably one of the better used assets.
I will say it's very well used.
Does anyone know, is it regularly monitored by the Health and Safety Children Play Corner Association or whatever? Every now and then.
I'm sure it is. They did mention on the day.
Do annual audits and things like that, which
There's
we
a
do
audit.
for the village halls currently.
Yes,
You've got all
but
the
I mean,
details, haven't
but I mean, some health and safety inspector comes and says, What you should do this way, you should spend so much in it. This is getting warm, that's getting warm. But, you know, these there are local comments about some people say, oh, it could be. Have to spend a lot of money in it. It might be so, it might not be so.
I know how those things are looked at.
On the day, if I may, picking up what the Inns said, the three people that were there from the village hall were saying they're really struggling for people to do jobs at the village hall. Bethany, bless her socks, is now chairman and treasurer, I think, which is ridiculous. I mean, she should be doing this. Oh, sorry, she's secretary then, is she?
No,
Oh, she's technically not. At one point, she was doing two jobs. I'm sorry, Auntie, I obviously got that wrong. And they really seem to be struggling, from what she said, for people to get involved. In terms of the play corner, part of what they said is that there is a legal requirement to have it checked on a, I don't know, but a weekly, monthly, or whatever basis, and they're not capable of doing that as well, possibly, as the Parish Council.
Are they looking at the village hall committee, are they thinking that they will not be able to continue doing what they've been doing in the past then? Is that what's happening? Why do they have this shortage of volunteers? I don't understand that.
Because this day and age, everybody's in the blame game, aren't they? And there's responsibility for everything. And like I said, the people who run the village hall are volunteers.
Everywhere there's a shortage of volunteers.
Well, I keep the weeds under control around the side of the
There's a charity
car
called the
park.
Village Hall.
You just mind.
Sorry.
I keep the weeds under control round the car park and round the path at the back.
Yeah.
And keep giving it a sweep now and then. But I think I've gone down and I'm quite surprised how much, what little litter there's been over this last 2 or 3 months. There used to be a lot, but it was only an odd can or two or a bit of paper or, it didn't put sort of horrendous.
With both Peter and Steve do litter picks around there.
Yeah, yes.
On a regular basis. Well, it's up for, for thought. So
There's a charity, is it something the Village Hall could maybe look at getting help externally from other sources, like maintenance and that sort of thing? They are a registered charity, so surely there must be help available to them as a charity.
with
Maintenance is the issue, it's the responsibility.
Right.
And if the Parish Council are considering opening a play corner at Backfield, it would all tie in together ready to take control of both. I don't know what was the issue with the car park. I didn't know the car park was at fault.
I think Bethany said that was a consideration, but it hadn't been tabled at the village hall at the time.
No.
It was definitely mentioned at the meeting.
No. It was mentioned at the last village hall meeting that the Parish Council had told people to use the car park without asking the village hall.
Alright.
That was a clerk. He
Yeah.
didn't realise. I
His
thought,
name was Morgan.
yeah. I put it in the newsletter because I thought that when the car park status changed, I thought it had changed to become a public car park when the Israeli got rid of it. And Bethany advised me that wasn't the case. He did say that it might be good to have a meeting with, like an informal meeting with the Parish Council and the village hall.
Yep.
But I thought the children's play area had been kept reasonably tidy.
Yeah, but it's moving on to the general maintenance and things like that, and
It's a safety issue, isn't it?
Yeah, that's why I said into somebody from South Health and Safety to come and look around it regularly and say to us, this is getting warm, that's getting warm.
I'm sure somebody does a health check, but as it's been said, they're just out of people now to volunteer to look after these things for the village hall.
I'm sure if the Parish Council did offer to take it on, the village hall would have it checked to prove it's in good.
Yeah, I'm sure they would. I'm sure they might insist. But anyway, if we give it some thought then, it's just up for discussion at the moment. and then we can put it on a future agenda to see if anyone's got any strong feelings one way or the other. But looking at the time, we'll move on. Onto the foot problems.
Charlotte, yeah, just very briefly again, I think I copied people on the email. There was a flood problem at Runner End, and basically we needed the road closing for a short time till it sorted itself out. And the problem wasn't just the water, it was cars going through the water. And I've written to the East Riding asking if in the future there's a way that the Parish Council might make a decision just to close the road at both ends for a short period of time until the flood water goes away. I'm still waiting to hear. I think the guy I worked with is on holiday, so I will follow that up.
Can I just ask when the Parish Council was informed of the floods? I'm mostly on the emergency committee, and I wasn't actually informed of anything being flooded at all on the day. Should we have had some sort of emergency meeting or something?
Yeah. There was nothing to my knowledge that could be done. Margaret Hobson phoned me up.
came to the rescue, didn't you, Margaret?
At some point after the flood had happened,
Yeah.
to seek advice, and I gave her advice to say get hold of, and she did get hold of the East Riding, which is where the problem belonged. And the flood issue I sent out was looking at a preventative measure for the future. I don't think on the day, other than the emergency committee sort of standing there saying stop, I don't think there was much.
I'd be perfectly willing to do
Well,
that.
yeah. But it was a phone call from Margaret that I reacted to.
Smashing.
She phoned me about 7 times on a Sunday.
Is it went further up my wellies? And that corner where it's supposed to be passed through a bill.
There's a couple of other things.
Yeah.
So we get those and we go to the kitchen for it.
Yeah, that's how they do it.
No, it's another
One more additional matter on the matters of the item. I'll read this out to you. Dear Parish Councillors, almost voting law in relief in need and education charity trustees invite the Home Conforming Law Parish Council to make a nomination to fill a vacancy for a trustee. The trustee will serve for a term of 4 years. The person nominated may be, but does not necessarily have to be a parish councillor. The trustees meet approximately 2 or 3 times a year, depending on business to be discussed, and they will send out all necessary information to the person nominated on receiving your reply. Sincerely, Peter Smith, the trustees.
Yes, well, I would like to nominate Councillor Wellock.
I'll second.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Are you willing to accept the nomination?
Yeah.
Then, all in favour of
Aye.
Mr. Robert? Tim? Kevin? Any interest in?
Thank you.
And I also sent out the severe weather plan and emergency plan to everybody for comment, and thank you for those of you that have made corrections. If you'd like to have a look, let me know, and then I will formally send it on to Beverly and get it logged there. Thank you.
Planning applications. First one is ours, the Heritage Board. Any comments? No? Absolutely. No comment on that one then.
What's the next one? Thank you.
This is the erection of a 2-storey extension to the side, single-storey extension to the rear, and construction of external staircase to the side. At Linwood House, 21 Station Lane. And if you have any comments, the gentleman that put forward the plan application, willing to answer any questions. No comments?
No, that's absolutely
Doesn't
true.
interfere with anyone in the area.
No? That's okay then.
And then there's the 2 at different sites for basically the same thing, so solar panels.
Right. And this one is for the installation of 980 ground-mounted solar panels. at land of northwest of Welland Bridge Farm, Howden Road, home from Spalding from Mr. Holcroft. Mr. Dean Holcroft. Comments?
The solar array, is that the whole thing is going to be 980 of the large, long piece of apparatus, or is it each individual solar panel on that apparatus?
About 5 acres.
It's about 5 acres.
No pictures of the array.
That's a single panel.
Right. So it's going to be 5 acres of that.
Yep.
Okay. Do we get anything back saying it's wind farms? Is it possible to get something back from those?
That's something I'm not thought of.
Sorry, I missed that.
I think Ian's asking if they would, you know, if it could be actually contribute to a community fund or anything.
It's just another piece of generating equipment, really, isn't it? And if it's, because there's the 2 applications coming up, another application coming up, so that's going to be nearly 2,000 of these things, so that's 10 acres. It's an awful lot, and
Would they want to go on?
Yeah, it's the same principle.
I don't think there's any harm in asking. But as far as the plan application goes, do we have any comments to make? They're obviously not as intrusive as an 80-metre tail line.
I think they're more of an eyesore than they are.
I don't think it's likely to see what we said, so.
I don't think we'll be seeing much.
yeah, away from roads.
I don't think we'll be seeing much from by the general public, by the place that they're at Mercy Lodge.
So no comment then?
They're about 3 foot, I think, from the ground down there.
Well, I think when you're driving past the younger towns, we're looking across the anyway. No comment? Sorry. Moving on. The siting of the static caravan to provide welfare facilities and store medical supplies, along with the installation of a feed silo and polytunnel and associated vehicle access. Land west of New Farm, Triple A, on Spalding North.
It's already there, on the lot.
Right. That's retrospective.
No, it doesn't say retrospective, but it is, but it's always up now from
Well, some pictures of them there. Didn't find that.
There is, right. I'm looking at that in short-term memory loss occasion, you know. Comments then? Are we...
Well, all I will say is, I don't know, like, many managers have agreed to bid after the event.
yeah.
But I think what we've got to look at here is there's obviously Derek is trying to help his son. We're trying to get a foothold in the farm, and they're working very hard at it. And you know, local people, same again, trying to do local things, selling local produce.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe haven't gone the right way about it, but they are working hard and trying hard. So I'm in favour of passing it.
Okay. Any other comments?
One of the neighbours out in very chuffed about it because they have the smell that comes from the dead pigs apparently in these bins.
All right. That's awareness and one thing, you know, people.
Yep.
Is it possible you could mention that?
Get big.
Does it say that they've been inspected by the transport mill who are taking most of the pigs? I think somebody said they'd been inspected and said they were satisfied with it.
Right. So, any other comments? So, are we in favour of... Well, a no comment.
There was also, this isn't for a planning application, it's publicity on the application for a certificate of lawful development, and they're asking about the siting of a residential caravan at the landing skiff lane for Mr. Vapor, and if there's any information that anybody has Mr. Vapour is saying that they've had the caravan there for 14 years, or almost 14 years. And the planners need to decide that or make a decision on it. And if there's any information that anybody has to add to that bank of information, it would be useful.
We've lived in that caravan for a long time. Well, it'll be 40 years, but he's been down there a long time.
So I personally don't know. I can't really see.
And like sewage works in the other area,
You wouldn't see it, Peter, because you can't see it, can you?
no,
It's actually inside.
It's in the shed.
It's
Yeah.
inside the green stuff.
But you can't see it, but it hasn't been there for a long time, has it?
Okay.
So anyone any comments to make? To each shots about this? No.
And also, if I may, I sent out an email after the agenda went out, and in a formal sense, too late for tonight, there was the erection of a dwelling for Douglas Black on Church View, land southwest of, and that looks like it's a renewal, but it doesn't say the word renewal, because he had the application in 2008 and 2011, and so he's keeping it valid. And it's whether, if you didn't want to sort of say, well, it looks okay tonight, then you would need to have a special meeting to discuss it.
Steve, did you say it's been passed before?
Yes.
It has been passed. Fine.
Yeah.
Over 7 years. Does he intend on actually doing anything with that piece of land, or is it just he keeps renewing it with his residential?
It's outlined for, it's outlined for a dwelling, and the Parish Council made no comments each time it came forward.
This is Ratcliffe. Planning it, okay. Sure. Hey? Yeah. I know what to do.
Right. While we're on planning, I've been asked to bring this to council's notice. That we request to build a dwelling at Stockstill, on North Stockstill, on Market Wheaton Road, was refused. It's going to appeal. And I've been asked to suggest to council that we should write a letter to whoever's listening to the appeal. Sorry, at the moment, I can't find the name.
That's the inspector in Bristol.
Sorry, the inspector, yeah. If we start of a man that it shouldn't be built there, rather than, there'll be no comment.
I think it's a ridiculous car. The amount of traffic we get from the now.
It was refused on the fact that it's outside the development, permitted development area, and also there is possible future plans for a road to go across there and put out the back corners. But anyway, this guy's appealed against it, so can the clerk send a letter on our behalf?
Why would you do that for everyone?
For everyone who
The appeals that we object to.
You do have that option.
I've been asked to bring this to council. And it's not the wrong planning, so council couldn't have anything. I hope they don't all pay. I mean, we have.
That we could one day be a road go across there was only looked at.
We did seriously look actually.
Yeah, we did, yeah. We can't really reiterate any more on those objections that we have. So those objections should have to be just written down. That's what we said the first time.
Yeah.
We can't recommend it.
Yeah, just remind them of our objections, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Well, the inspectors can see them, anyway. The inspector can see them, can't he? The appeal inspector.
That's absolutely right, yeah.
I mean, access was one of the big
Yeah,
problems as well.
means of access from a busy road was considered dangerous. It's outside the community development. And then there's this possibility of a road in the future.
The road future was not an objection, I don't think,
Oh,
from the Parish Council, because that obviously is. So give me 1 second and I'll find it. Sorry, it's not really been out of page. What's the name on it? Please. Told. Oh, the actual application was a while ago, wasn't it? Of course it was. Sorry, it's only just gone to appeal, and the number is 13. That's why I can't find it. Here we go, yeah. Objection, means of access plus outside the development, plus the outside of the development limit. You did mention the local development framework did show a relief road, but I think that was a information type thing rather than an actual objection. So yeah, means of access outside development limit and potential relief road going through it.
and of course you can write as individuals as well.
They've planted a line of trees, you know, the other side of the hedge towards the bottom piece. So why plant a bit line of trees if you appeal into the house we put there?
That's no idea.
No. Seems weird.
But do we feel that we should send a letter off?
I think we've been requested to send a letter, we should do so and reiterate what our objections are.
Can we do that?
Yeah, yeah, we should get that. Hopefully that's what we need time. The Doug Black thing, did you want to just make no comment on that and let it run, or did you want to meet about it? This is the one on Church View.
No, we're all okay with it.
Yeah.
It's been passed before.
Yeah, no comment. So just leave a no comment on that. That's fine. Thank you.
Right. Planning decisions as advised by East Yorkshire Council. Retention of existing site access at Douglas Plan. Grant.
I still find that funny. It wasn't an existing
I
site.
know.
It's a new entrance.
We still don't know that way.
That just needs monitoring, really, make sure they do it as
Yeah.
we requested, really, just the stores and things like
Accounts.
As listed for approval. I could, if I may mention the pro forma invoice. Something I have a little twinge about, because Bethany and I have spent time looking at the best deal possible for buying village hall chairs, and the pro forma invoice is from a company called Morley's Mail Order. They have a pucker headed paper, they have a website. I've checked the website, I've spoken to the company, and they obviously have a chain of command, if you like, within the company, so I think they're a solid company. But they wouldn't let us have the chairs until we pay for them, because obviously the Parish Council has not done business with them. I have this little thing, and that's why I ask you to approve payment for it, to pay £3,000 some pounds without getting the chairs in advances. The same position our side as to their side. They don't want to do it without the money. Do you want to do it without the chairs? It all looks pucker, but I can't guarantee that it is, because I've never dealt with the issue.
that. But it turned out it wasn't, then it's just a matter of legal action, isn't it? It doesn't turn out right.
A lot of businesses do work.
Of course.
You'd add him up into the fish shop and ask the fish and chip teeth, and then
I think so. If you feel fairly confident that, then you can check it out.
I'm as confident as I can be, but I can't. It's not a guarantee, obviously. That's why it needs to be your decision, not mine. No.
Are we happy that Steve goes ahead with
I
this?
wonder if we know that the chairs are the chairs that we ordered in the first place, do you know that? That's all. Other than the chairs that we ordered in the first place.
Well, we haven't had them yet, so
And
we haven't had any changes.
we had a sample of,
Yeah, we've got a sample, but that's all. But it's that those
we
ones
decided
that's
on
all
that,
gets
we decided on that sample.
I've left it to Bethany to decide which.
All right.
So, she obviously better for the village hall to do it. In that case, could you confirm all the checks then? Could we have confirmed the checks formally?
Because we went to great lengths of those chairs, what's in the village hall now, and thought we was buying what was nice and comfortable for people. And all we get is complaints about them, saying after they've been 7.5 hours, they want a bill. So we really want to make sure that these are the right chairs to be able to sit on a couple of us at least.
Do some testing?
Well, we didn't sit on for the
As long as we do check, test it. Can we just go through the checks?
We'll just confirm them on block if that's okay.
Just confirm that we're all okay, please.
I will speak to Bethany and perhaps suggest that we get a sample chair sent before we buy them all, maybe. And then that would answer your question.
we
You have had, that's fine. Sorry, didn't know.
Is it from this company?
And if I may, I have a slight concern with obviously Chris now not being here. Chris was one of those signatories, and so we now just got Ernest and Anne to sign checks. And obviously Anne isn't here tonight, so we can't get the cheque signed tonight. I think Anne did sign two before she left, yeah, and they are for Peter and Steve. The main concern is that Peter Wiles and Steve Deere, who work for the Parish Council, get paid. Well, that's not a problem this time, but it may have been if Anne hadn't happened to sign those two cheques for me. I don't know whether it's worth doing anything about it, because obviously next May there'll be a new parish council and who's to know who will be on it, and at that point we can get new signatures, but I just needed to make you aware of that. I'm sure I can manage my way through it with, I can go and see Anne on the cheque.
You know, I would do that. I've had a going on with some signatures on a chequebook, and it's a song and dance. It can be. It takes time, so
Just to change what I want.
Yeah, it's a big job.
yeah.
Seemed as simple as it used to be.
No, you just work your way through to next May. Right, that's mine.
And finally, the printer copier, as I've mentioned before, the lease expires in October. I've had one estimate or one quote from a rival company, Xerox, and I'm waiting for the existing company, Chronicle and Altus, to come in with theirs. And I'll spend time with people, we'll look at them together and make recommendations, hopefully at the next meeting.
Right, the Heritage Project.
Well, I think we said a lot of it earlier on, but there's just a couple of things to say. That we are attending the Heritage on Days event in September, and we are going to put forward a good display, asking people what future projects should be. And we've got some suggestions. They're already searching the Grapevine, and we're going to be there to give it a bit of a push. So I think that's going to be the starting point of the next thing, along with the work we're doing with Market Witten Canal and Golden Shields. The only other thing I wanted to say was the computer equipment. Steve knows about this. The equipment that was bought, given to the History Society, it was subject to where was it, and the police did have a look at it. With all the carrying on with the ex-chairman. And I believe Steve has tracked the equipment down, and it is in a safe place now. And we must remember that the grants that we were given by Ren and also Leader, we have to respect and make sure that equipment is used for the purpose that it was granted for. Leader can be a bit sticky about something like this. So I'm hoping, as we go ahead, that the history people will understand that that is a requirement, that we do need to know where it is.
I'm
Are you happy with that, Steve?
I'm fairly confident it's at £1,000 now, from what
Yeah.
I'm told. It is, yeah, I thought so.
But that's important, Steve.
No,
Steve will keep tabs on that. We Steve and I have talked about this. Okay, that's
Okay, thank you, Gordon. Conservation issues.
Um,
That was needed, wasn't it?
Yeah, Helen and I have talked about this issue of having a digger to connect the in and the out of the road runoff, and Helen is arranging a meeting with Peter Wiles and the guy with the digger to look at Peter doing that, and he'll get support on the day, will Peter, obviously. So that should happen, I hope, fairly soon. There was the reply I sent you from the conservation volunteers when he said that he wasn't surprised that the Parish Council decided not to go for the grant that he made a presentation on. But he said maybe we can revisit the idea of doing some purely habitat-based work at the site with alternative funding. And that, I think, is probably what the Parish Council was saying. So with your permission, I'll sort of forward that with Helen and Gordon and other interested parties.
I think you should mention the cost of the digger would be £50 per day.
It was an amount that you agreed at some point, and I can't remember, sorry.
Okay.
It wasn't a massive amount of money. It may have been nearer the 100, but I can't remember, sorry.
World War One.
Sorry, can I just...
Oh, sorry.
I do apologise. We've had communication from David Mills about the land at Sandholes, because Peter Wiles dug out some spoil when he organised the bench on the village green, and it was good spoil, it was soil, it wasn't sort of rubbish or anything, and he put that on the land at Sandholes, and David Mills saw him and was concerned about, you know, potential dumping of, and he was then asking about who owns the land, and him and I got into a communication about that. I'm fairly sure that and Anne isn't here unfortunately, but Anne has said in the past that Sandholes is parish land, like the village green is parish land. I don't know if anybody else can confirm that.
I can confirm that, because we used to live next door.
Yeah.
We used to live when
So it definitely is parish land.
It's classed as common land.
Yeah.
Okay, I will follow that up and get that done in a formal way. I'm not sure who I talked to, but thank you. I'll follow that and I'll write back to him. He was also saying that the land is currently an unofficial wildlife haven with trees and flowers and so forth on it. And it does have a wet area, so why change it? And he's asking what is the Parish Council's future policy towards this land. Basically the Parish Council doesn't really have a future policy at the moment.
We have spoken about planting a variety of fruit trees down there possibly, but as a wildlife haven, there's only the hedges and longish grass. If we wanted to do something good for the wildlife, we would put the right sort of flowers and things in. But the reason I started putting bits and pieces of soil from our diggings around the village there was because eventually we will level it all up and fill the large wet area to a point where it didn't flood and just tidy it up a little bit. I know it sounds crazy, but I think a lot of people agree now that wildlife areas need managing, not just something that's left. Because eventually the tree in the middle will grow and pull a lot. But we do need to speak to them, so obviously we put a bit less that we aren't jumping any over.
Well, I have told them that, obviously.
Peter, why don't we with Helen get Helen to bring that into the equation? I know that I've heard one or two of the residents down there mention this business about the wildlife down there. So we ought to make sure that they're involved in when we do have a talk about it.
Yeah.
So we ought not to just forget about it, we ought to become active on that, as we have been on Weir's Pond.
Do we have a map with the land that we are in charge of, sort of, around the parish? Because I had no idea that was even hours.
I could print one off.
Good,
I'd have to do more than one, that's all that, to get it to the scale
Right.
where people do an individual piece. It's not being a dot. It's very little in actual facts. It's very little.
Yeah.
There's two sort of elements here. There's an element, the parish council owns land that it knows it owns and can prove it owns. The cemetery, Oldley, Central Reservation, the Village Green. We can't prove that we own Weir's Pond because we've tried that, and in the midst of time, it's obvious that it is parish land or common land, whichever, but there's no way currently to prove it because the land registry don't have that information. Sandholes fits with that as well, I'm fairly confident.
And we wouldn't own common land anyway, would we? Common land is common land.
Yeah, but
I don't know down at land of North, it's common land.
So the only question is, should we be looking at it on the week after its hours?
At the time, I got all my hand up, I was told it was village land.
So maybe Mr. Mills has a point on that too.
But we'll have a chat with
Yeah.
We'll go down and speak to them.
Okay.
What we see. Right, we'll move on now to World War I Memorial. There's no movement on. We've got to wait now to hear about the application for the large grant. And I need it very, very quickly now. I've only got a matter of weeks to set up the small memorial garden to commemorate the death of each soldier. I did ask Neil a couple of days ago for a list of the dates of the deaths of all the 39 soldiers on the First World War Memorial, and he did promise he'd send me it, and he hasn't. But I'll chase that up, and I'll chase the necessary bits and pieces up to set up the small memorial garden. I'll probably not put it where we're going to put the main memorial, just in case that money comes through. And that's where we are at the moment. As I said, I've got to move quickly because the first soldier from this village died in September 1914. I'm aware of that. So then we're moving on to Village in Bloom. We're going to rein in at the moment. We've gone from nothing 18 months ago. We're now looking at 15 separate bits and pieces of flower beds, having planted and sort of taken on board the two bottom of Meadowfield that were dug by volunteers 4 or 5 years ago. So we now, because we've gone from 6, 7 to 15, the bill for plants has gone up enormously, plus the planters and the hanging baskets. I was in Greenside talking about the hanging baskets because there's a major problem watering them. And Wayne has offered to buy a different kind for us, a plastic variety with a small reservoir in the bottom, and he will buy 20 and donate them to the village. We'll have suggested that we can do that next spring, really for the summer planting, and we won't bother this winter, we will just sort of step back a little bit and say,
Greenside Up.
yeah. But we are now spending a fair amount of money. I asked for the bill. He doesn't want. I haven't brought it because he doesn't want it presenting. He doesn't want the money yet. He'll be happy with it next month. It's the tax man or something. So that's where we are with Village in Bloom. We're just taking a deep breath now. I have contacted. I've managed to speak to a chap that runs Yorkshire Village in Bloom. He put me to sleep 3 times on the phone. But I've got to contact him online at the end of September. They're now, they've just done all the summer judging and they're now writing the reports and things. So he needs the money to do that. So that's where we are. So we'll move on to reports.
Just some complaints about all the manhole grates down the main street. Just really wanting to clean full of rubbish.
Right.
Just wanting to clean out really.
Okay.
So the water should be get away like on that day. Having down the walls. Shouldn't get down to it.
The suction pump.
So the to dip outside Southgate again, but that's an ongoing, isn't it?
They know about it, there's no point in telling them really.
They just come and put a pile of tarmac in it and then leave it.
But they are promising that when the money's there, they're going to do a complete reconstruction of that piece of road. Because it's now spread with great drops. Okay. Yeah. Ernest?
Yes, on behalf of those residents opposite Southgate's carriage there, this lady said she was complaining on behalf of them all of the dogs that were making a noise there. We've had it before, and you can hear them, and she says they object to it at 5 o'clock in the morning. Would I report it to the Parish Council?
Can I? I've been into this with a resident that lives opposite, Trish.
Yes.
I can't remember her last name. And I've spoken to her, I put her in touch, this is some while ago now, put her in touch with the relevant person at Beverley. There's nothing the Parish Council can do other than put people in touch with the noise people at Beverley. The noise people have to come out and hear and measure the noise from the resident's house, and if it's of a certain volume then they can take action. But they can't do it on hearsay, is what's loud to me is not loud to you, and vice versa sort of thing. So if they'd like to contact me, please ask them to get in touch and I'll set them in train to talk to the right people at Beverley.
Who wants to contact you?
Whoever the residents are that have spoken to you,
All right.
ask them to get in touch with me.
It was that Trish who...
Oh, then Trish again. Well,
she was on behalf of the residents. She was complaining.
well, Trish, I will contact Trish again, but Trish knows what needs to be done. I've been through this, and as I said, I've put her in touch already with the right person.
They are quite nice. I mean, we deal sometimes around our way.
Yeah.
And another thing is edge overhanging down Old Road. Someone complaining that they can't walk on the footpath probably because it's drained across the footpath.
I've actually been spoken to someone about, someone spoke to me about that. He did give me a number and I've got written on it. Another piece of paper.
I've got something, I was... My inspector of hedges went down there and said it was all okay.
He didn't say it was all okay, he said it was manageable.
Do we know what number it is? Sorry.
No, it's just...
I think it's 38.
It's 38, all right.
I'll have a look and I'll write to them.
That's all, Mr. Chairman. That's all.
Yeah, down Howard Road, we're still wondering, we were told about 4 months ago that the retrospective planning permissions for Warehouse Fire were going to come along, and they never come along.
Right.
And we just wondered if there's, what do we do about that? We were told we were going to, there's going to be a planning application coming along, and it's never come along. I've been asked about that.
I'll ask planning if they've heard. What was it for again?
Well, it was just the change of use of the site, and they said that there was going to be a planning application come on.
Did we have a contact? Just remind me. Sorry.
Peter Robinson was there.
Peter, right. Thank you.
That's it.
Sorry.
Right, the sinkhole, just outside Meadowfield, near that East Riding building, it's really, really sunk down. Because I've hit it twice this week, and you really do run down. All the time, that's crap. So it needs,
Is this on the road?
yes, on the road. It needs lifting out and retarmacking.
So it's outside the Citizen Link.
Yeah. And the drains that were all bunged up back in McCall's, opposite Margaret's, I think we could all do with a damn good clean out.
Well, they know about that, yeah.
And I've been asked to say, can we have a road closure from the village hall to the cafe on Village Green for the Christmas do, please?
From the village hall to the cafe.
Yeah. That's it.
Well, the Parish Council need to decide if they want a road closure. It wasn't discussed at the Christmas event, obviously. But it wasn't agreed upon because
It was mentioned, and what was said was there was just
Park cars, isn't it?
car at each end, stop it for the 20 minutes we needed.
So we're not closing from the village hall where the kiddies can be walking from the fairground to the village hall and back again.
We didn't have that last year, though, did we?
We didn't last year, no. It's felt that it would be a lot of, well, not trouble, but it would take a lot, because you've got to inform or ask everyone that it would involve if they would, if they basically say yes or no.
Yeah. Well, you've only got two on the left-hand side of the road.
Well, if you close in the road, you'd have to ask everyone in the village practically.
Would it be worth asking our resident lollipop man if he would mind donating a little of his time to help the kids across?
That may be an easy solution.
If we could, sorry,
I don't think it'd be allowed to, would it?
Because he was being employed,
It's
he's
not contracted, it's contracted hours, is it?
he's employed by his
Hmm?
Not as a lollipop.
No, oh, you mean just as a man with a walking people across the road?
Because obviously he must be employed by East Rhine Council. Is it worth asking his superiors if himself if he wouldn't mind donating that time? And
He'd be playing with his band, though,
You will.
Is there a big cost involved in closing it?
there's no cost,
No cost.
but if I could just say, you can't close the bit from the village hall to the cafe on the green. You have to close the road from Worrall end to to the cafe on the green, because the traffic, you can't send them down the main street and suddenly at the village hall it's closed.
Yeah.
You have to give them a diversion down back lane.
Because I suggested just closing a little bit behind the green
Yeah.
wouldn't be, too bad, but somebody said, oh, last time we wanted to do it, we had to have everyone down High Street.
Right.
So it was briefly discussed. Ian? I've just one, and that's, again, back lane, there's a dog leg dispenser that needs filling opposite Old Taylor. There's what?
Old road.
Sorry, Old Road. Did I say back lane? I do apologise. Again, it's my age. Time we all this up.
I'll ask Peter to look at that.
You mentioned that minute ago.
I have done 3 times. Has he not done it?
I haven't been down there.
I think, well, I would hope he's done it, but check and tell me.
Correspondence.
There was just 3 bits. The post office, I think everybody knows about. The proposed move to new premises, and the Parish Council has been asked to comment on it. Have you had that as a resident?
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know whether you as a Parish Council wish to make comment on it.
I don't think there's what we can say.
How does it actually work in Budworth for that? Because
Sorry.
in Budworth they've done the same thing.
But we've been like that for quite some time, yeah.
Because the way I read it was that the person who operates the post office section will actually be out the retail counter.
No, no.
Is that
No.
the industry?
What happens in Budworth, and what will happen, I'm sure, here, is that the post office is just another counter. And everybody that works in the shop operates the post office, operates the off licence, operates the general, operates the lottery, and they're all trained in it.
Right.
And it's open when the shop's open. So in Budworth, the post office is open from 7 till 10.
What is the changeover day, do you know? Do you know? Actually day.
Before December, wasn't it? Or somewhere around December.
The application just says sometime November, December.
I don't think it's got a date, no. It works tremendously well in Budworth. The staff were a little bit iffy about it to begin with, some of them. But it's great. They can go in at 9 o'clock at night and buy stamps or send a registered letter or whatever. I think it's fantastic.
Even on Sunday, or
Yeah, on Sunday. So on Sunday it's open from 8 till 9 or whatever the shop hours are. And it's just part of the mix. They've lost, some things are lost, and I think it says on the letter, not something I don't think that is massively important. Travel insurance and premium bonds and stuff. but I mean that you can maybe get elsewhere. But as a general post office, it certainly seems to work. So there's no comment on that. I've got 2 copies of the East-Riding. Sorry.
I take it we're looking at access into the shop and that'll be redeveloped because obviously there's a step down, isn't there, into that shop. That'll all part of the redevelopment.
It says modernisation.
I thought there was a little step up into the post office.
Yes.
Yeah.
Step up. That's it, step up. Step up.
It'll
So,
go.
and there's a step in both, you're right, there's a step down into the call, and a step up into the post office. I mean, we discussed this when it came up not so years ago, and really, with no choice, we either lose the post office completely, or it just goes next door.
So no comments on that. There's 2 copies of the East-Riding Parish News. If anybody wants it, July and August. I have sent you by email, but if anybody wants a written, the hard copy, ask me. And I've got more information about the carbon capture from National Grid, including a DVD or CD. You're very welcome to it if you want. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There's nothing else. I'll close the meeting, and the next meeting will be held on Wednesday, the 17th of September. Yeah. Thank you very much.